Welcome back to the channel. Swordsman here. Just got done completing a couple of the round 4 of the Gran Turismo World Series manufacturers here in the test season. Brand spanking new competition, which really doesn't mean anything other than practice, bragging rights, and just to be able to do it. So far, done 2 slots tonight, driving, of course, the Nezza Racing team, sponsored by Damien Sportswear, Group 4 Genesis. So, relatively easy car to drive, especially here at Laguna Seca, where the 4-wheel drive Mazda Atenza is the dominant force. But luckily, this car is pretty darn good here. So, did slot 1. Once again, was pretty nervous. So, I had just set a relatively decent practice time, which was actually on par to our buddy Turismo Lester, being a 1 minute 28.7. This time around, opted to not push the car too much. Try and, obviously it's Laguna Seca. You go off into the sand trap, and that's pretty much race over for the most part, unless everyone else crashes. So, did slot 1, was pretty nervous. That 28.7 I didn't practice just a few minutes earlier, didn't transfer over, screwed up the exit coming onto my flyer, ended up doing a 29.6, qualified 11th. A couple guys crashed in front of us, and we finished in the 9th position. So, made a cup of tea, calmed down a little bit. Fortunate to have a night off to be able to do this. So, once again, we did slot 2. Wasn't as nervous, but still wasn't the greatest lap. So I did not record the actual qualifying just for the race itself. And yeah, I set a 29.1, which, was significantly better, probably 4th or 5th place in the first race. But for some reason, I got pole. I don't know how that happens. So yeah, so I get pole position. And now I'm really nervous because there's a couple Mazda Atenzas behind us. Toyota Supra, Genesis is not a fast car in a straight line, but it has really good cornering. And it was my first win in only my 3rd race, which is pretty significant since GT Sport. It took me 139 races to finally get a race, and that was like a daily race A. So let's check it out. So 7 laps around here at Laguna Seca. A couple of familiar faces, people that we've raced with in the past. As I mentioned earlier, this race dominated by the Group 4 Mazda Atenza. Just something about 4-wheel drive cars at this particular circuit. To set the stage, Gran Turismo has done upgrades, per se. They've changed how weather influences track temperature. And, sunny California, track temperature is probably about 95 degrees, and it's pretty dry. So you definitely want to have a bit more grip. So let's check it out. So here we are, qualified on pole position in only our 3rd race. Unbelievable. Can't believe it. So once again, this is probably 4th slot or 4th split, as all drivers in this lobby are around my driver rank. So it's probably between 65 and 57,000 driver rank, if I were to guess. And we're off. Heading downhill towards the first hairpin of turn 1, turn 2. Slotted just ahead of a Group 4 Toyota Supra. So for this race, the tire wear multiplier is set to ×5. Fuel set to ×1. Everyone's racing on the Racing Hard tire compound. And making our way up the hill, coasting through 4th, up to 5th gear, under the Gran Turismo banner, heading towards the corkscrew for the very first time. So I ran a little bit wide there. I was so nervous. I had twice in practice actually botched that pretty hardcore. As we're gonna look back through the field. Porsche Cayman goes a little bit wide. But for the most part, everyone made it through pretty clean. Riding on board with the 5th place, Corvette, Group 4 of Hemi. This is a driver that we raced with last week when we were at Bathurst. So these were the cars I was most worried about. 4th place, Mazda Tenza, a car that is currently dominating the Group 4 daily races. The scuffle between two of the Gazoo Racing Toyota Supras. All that's going through my head right now is don't spin out, just focus on inputs. We have about a 1 second lead, which is just outside of the slipstream range. And just hold it together, really. As we go up the hill under the VP Racing Fuel Bridge, headed towards the corkscrew for the second time. So we've got Genesis, followed by 2 Toyota Supras, Mazda Tenza P4, Corvette, the second Atenza in the line. There is one of the Citroens, Jaguar F-Type. Oh, as the Citroen gets squirrely. Riding on board. Alright, that right there was definitely my biggest concern. Getting loose, going down the hill. P8, the Argentine driver of a Peugeot RCZ. And hey, look at that, Sir Exploit in the other Genesis G70. This is the driver in our very first sport mode race at DeForest Raceway. This is the driver actually finished right behind. Running out the top 10, Ford Fairlane in a Mazda Tenza. He actually won slot 1, scored 285 points, and, well, must be racing just to raise the driver rank, because I definitely would have taken 285 points with me. 11, Porsche Cayman, Ford Mustang, followed by a Dodge Viper, Alfa Romeo slotted into 14th. So Mercedes AMG, another Peugeot, Cayman, Myth Esports, Daniel had dropped from sitting comfortably in the top 10 back to 18th. His teammate Venom GT situated in 19th and back to the front. So we're going to ride on board once again. So a pretty short race, a pretty quick event. Watching one of my buddies' streams and checking out his overall time with a 10-minute 25, that being Distinct Esports Andrew Lee, one of the world finalists from 2021. And fortunately, my overall pace wasn't too far off. I was about 13 seconds off of his overall time at 10 minutes and 37 seconds for 7 laps here at Laguna Seca. As I mentioned in my last video, this car in particular, especially at Bathurst, always focusing on the miles per hour. That is my cue to start shifting. Pretty solid battle so far between Nezzo Racing versus Myth Esports of South America. Now we're going to ride on board with the Myth Esport driver. I think you could tell that as the laps wore down, I was getting very nervous, and so I kept slowing down maybe a little bit earlier than was necessary. Just trying to keep the car on the racetrack. Definitely one thing that I'm super happy about is the merging of the two regions once again. So in the top 8, represented by 4 countries, that's pretty awesome. So just trying to keep that Genesis in a straight line. This is where the Myth Esports driver, I was a little bit concerned that he was going to make a last-minute move, but pretty respectful. We had a very, very close, clean, epic battle. So props to Kelso G65 as we cross the strip for 2 laps to go. Once again, heading towards turn 1. Dropping down to 2nd gear. Trying to also focus on not braking, not doing full brake, but to really play with the throttle and brake. All right, heading under the Mother's Bridge. At this point, I was almost ready to give up the lead. I knew I was slowing him down quite a bit. I knew we had a gap after the first race where, you know, I witnessed a lot of people going off. It's like, you know what? I'd just be happy with the podium. But for the most part, this Myth Esports driver didn't take any big chances. So we just held it together. He goes a little bit squirrely, and similar to Gran Turismo Sport, you put a tire off, you know, that really influences the amount of grip. So most of the turns here are obviously left-hand turns to start the lap, but I could tell he was getting a little bit squirrely. All right, 1 lap to go. Still can't believe I'm leading this race. Felt like I had decent pace in free practice, but that didn't include tire wear or fuel. So this is definitely where it got interesting. So he is right there. If I make one small mistake, it's his. Ends up going off. Ah, oh, so unfortunate for this Myth Esports driver. Hopefully he can hold it together for P2. Take a peek back, riding on the back fin of my Nezzo Racing Genesis Group 4 G70. one thing I've definitely learned from this race, I absolutely have to work on my confidence when it comes to being able to catch the car, especially when it comes to understeer. The Group 3 Genesis is very, very tricky for me. It's, I'd say, comparable. It almost feels like the Group 3 Lamborghini of Gran Turismo Sport. It's super twitchy. This car is very well planted, especially for dry, hot, and sticky tracks, say like Bathurst, despite not having the top end speed. But here we are at the bitter end. Pole position, leading all 7 laps, 264 points. So not too shabby for just our 3rd race back after a 1.5 year break from racing games and using a steering wheel. A huge shout out to Myth Esports out of South America for a very epic clean battle with their driver Kelso G65. Also want to give a shout out to our buddy Hemi. It's the driver we've raced with for, almost 4 years now. Yeah, so there we have it. So I'd say a pretty successful campaign, good outing. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it to round 3 at Suzuka this past Sunday, just with our busy work schedule. But hey, Riva, thanks for stopping by, mate. Really appreciate that. One thing I know you'll appreciate from years ago when we had the conversation about, force feedback and steering sensitivity, what kind of settings seem to be optimal for being smooth. And, I've been out of the cockpit really for about 16 months due to tendinitis. And yeah, I'm actually running the highest sensitivity on my wheel at 7. And the force feedback and torque settings are all set to the lowest. So I don't have to fight the car as much, and I can focus on being a little bit more smooth and consistent. So thank you for the suggestion and recommendation. But yeah, there we have it. Just a short little stream tonight, just to recap our victory, which it's going to take a little bit for me to process. I didn't think I was going to win a race this early on, especially compared to Gran Turismo Sport, where it actually took me 139 sport mode races, and my first win was in the Daily Race A, which is not super competitive. So yeah, so there we have it. So this good result should put us safely into, I think, the top 100 for the Americas region here in test season 1. And yeah, back to the drawing board to figure out how to get quicker. So yeah, for those that checked out my brief little stream, I really, really appreciate it. Appreciate the support, and I look forward to seeing you guys on track soon. So cheers. Swordsman out. Bye.